Hey everyone, Loomis here, and we are back with our next Ancient Call guide, the guide to the boss Sleipnir. Now, Sleipnir is this horse guy, and so, like some of the other Ancient Call fights, there are going to be two phases that we go through. The first phase we will call the stationary phase. Now, during the stationary phase, he has a perk that makes all units on the field, so our units, do 60% less damage. Now, if you move squares before you attack, like let's say you use Chivalry or Wind Spiral or any pre or strike or any of those attacks, you can increase your damage by 20% per square you move. So you're going to want to make sure that you have maximum mobility possible to run up and attack Sleipnir in order to do as much damage as possible. Now, he also sucks in all the units, no matter where you are on the map, into a one ring around him and will hit you with a physical AoE every turn. So just something to consider. You have to be prepared to get hit by an AoE all your units every turn. Now, his first attack is just a single target attack that does 2x damage, but if your unit getting hit has less than 90% HP, the damage will increase by 100%, so that hurts a lot. Just make sure that your units are healed up before they get hit by this. The second attack is a 1.5x physical damage attack that immobilizes. So by immobilizing, I do not mean stun. It will reduce your move to 0, you can't guard, etc., etc. So just something to consider, especially if you're getting your tank hit by that, they will not be able to move around. And the damage will increase by 50% per square. The unit is away from Sleipnir. So if your tank is literally next to him and he hits him with it, it will be a 50% damage boost. That's the minimum. It will always be at least 50%, so just something to consider. Then the third skill is a 2 square around AoE. Think Fusion Emperor that does 2x damage, which is a very powerful AoE. If you think of it, the most powerful AoEs we have access to, something like Earthquake is 0.4, so this is literally 5 times as strong. So it's quite a big hit. But he will only do a regular attack if there are 2 or less units within the 2 square range around him. So, this is something that you can cheese and just get a regular attack out of. So just make sure that you deal with this AoE properly. Now, once you've killed Sleipnir, he will get stunned for the remainder of the turn. You can spank some damage on him while he's immobilized with no counter, and then he's going to move into something that we call the moving phase. Now, Sleipnir in this phase, his attack range will go to 1, but his move is 99, so he can move anywhere on the map. And he's going to cast something called Hunting at the start of every turn, which applies a 2-turn debuff called Hunted. And we'll get into what exactly Hunted is in a little bit. But if Sleipnir kills any unit in this phase, he will move again. So this includes summons. This includes all your regular units. So try your best to have him not kill people. I mean that goes without saying. But he will move again, and we'll get to Hunted in a little bit on this slide. So his first skill is you'll do a 5 times line AoE in any of the 4 cardinal directions. So up, down, left, right. This can be cheesed. If there's no one in a line around him, he will not attack. So very important to do and position correctly on this one. Now, the line, if you remember some of the challenges from Overlord line, and like the Leon and the Laird and the Sherry and the Lester, how they had basically the unlimited range, unlimited range AoE that in a line would basically insta-give you. This is basically the same thing. So just on the first move here, do not put anyone within a line of Sleipnir, or you will probably get OHKO'd. All right, next is a 2 square 1x single target attack with a 100% damage boost that will always target the person who has the Hunted debuff. So he will move around the map and find this unit out like a heat-seeking missile. The damage is going to be reduced by 20% per square move to a maximum of 160%. So it's something important to consider. And this skill can be guarded. So if the unit who has the Hunted debuff on them is within guard range of a unit, the tank will take the hit for them. And if there are no units with Hunted, he will cast Hunting again and the third skill. So this is basically what the Hunted skill does. It finds the unit that Sleipnir is going to prioritize attacking on skill 2. And then skill 3 is he's just going to pick 2 random units to suck in next to him, similar to the first phase, except instead of your entire team, it's only going to be the 2 units. And this does no damage. So, the second skill is the one you really have to watch out for in the moving phase. The first one can be cheese. The third skill really doesn't do much. So that's what the kit for Sleipnir looks like. So in terms of unit selection, the two factions that have the 100% stat buff are going to be the Empire faction and the Strategist faction. So in terms of team composition, you're definitely going to want a tank because the tank is going to help a lot with this fight by obviously guarding for your team. But this is the first phase especially is really the only Ancient Call fight that has like kind of the classic tank and deal damage back kind of mechanic. The second phase gets away from that a little bit, but this is really the only AC fight where you're going to see a tank used in a traditional sense. I think you should bring two DPSs, two support units, and then a healer. So we will start off with tanks, and the first tank I would like to highlight is Altamuller. Now, I would say that you should bring Reinforcement, the Strong Arm, I believe the guard skill is called, and Raging Thunder. Now, even at 5-star, and especially at 6-star, he can stack over 100% damage reduction on the hero between Last Rites, because you're going to run him in a flyer class with flanks. So the Last Rites will give him 40%. He'll get additional ones because if you put him with the unique item, the regular crown, Wind Ride from Raging Thunder will have 100% uptime. You're gonna want to run him with the Steel Enchant. You can have units give him damage reduction. You can even give him the amulet, the SR item I'm showing here. So he's definitely the most ideal tank for the fight because he can stack damage reduction easier than any other tank. And the flanks as a troop also just have a unconditional 30% damage reduction on them themselves. So he's just the easiest tank to kind of plop in and fight with. In terms of equipment, I would recommend probably Throne Guardian, although you could use the Yigi. Last Rites is a must for the extra damage reduction. Then the regular crown is by far his best option, so you can easily maintain 100% damage reduction with no downtime and maintain your guard with no downtime. So that, and then because it is a tank fight, and he can only get so many stacks every turn. So having the regular crown will help him increase his stacks or the uptime of his stacks as well, because he gets damage reduction from his talent. So it's basically this entire build is around how do you maximize the damage reduction on the tank, and you're going to see that the other tank suggestions I have are also operating under the same idea. So the next tank I'd like to highlight is Emmerich. Now, for Emmerich, I would recommend you run Parry, Move Again, and Ram. Now, under ideal conditions, he can definitely reach at least 65 damage reduction on the hero. Plus, if you're going to run Royal Cavalry on him, they have 45%. His talent will add 20% there, so they're going to be also at 65%. Ram is an important skill. Any skill that moves Sleipnir is going to be very important on both phases because, you're going to want to have as much room to run up and attack him as possible. So if you can ram him on the first phase and make it easier for your units to move 3 squares before attacking, that's extremely ideal. And then on the, that's the stationary phase. And then on the moving phase, when you have something like the first attack with the line AoE, if you want to ram him so you can position your units better to avoid that line AoE, that's very important on this fight. So you're going to see that a lot of units are going to want to bring some type of move again skill and or a ram skill if they have it. Now, the huge downside with Emmerich is that he basically does 0 damage. His entire kit is around, how can I be this bulky cavalier? And he does no damage. So don't expect him to do anything counter. And then in terms of equipment, I think Dragon Slayer Gram is the best because it gives him HP. Bloodline, so you can potentially get the melee damage reduction proc. Now, I would say Gaia's is actually a strangely good option for this fight because if you meet the HP threshold, you're going to give the hero extra damage reduction. So for units that can run it, this is the one time Gaia's helmet's going to shine. And then Amulet as well, he's going to be running the Steel Enchant. So, you can stack a pretty good amount of damage reduction on Emmerich as well. Now, for the third tank, and I actually think this is an extremely underrated choice, is actually going to be Serena. And Serena, I would say, bring Unbreakable Guardian, Block, and Ram. Now, under ideal conditions, she can actually get slightly more damage reduction than Emmerich, plus if you bring block, that gives her a chance for over 100% damage reduction with good RNG. Her soldier choices are kind of useless in my opinion, although I think, maybe Zealots might be the best choice for her. They do get an extra damage reduction through Holy Light Protection at 100% health, so you need to maintain very, very high health on her. Otherwise, her best tanking option is probably Dark Centurions, but she's definitely going to counter a lot more damage than Emmerich would. But, I'd say that she's a little bit less bulky overall in terms of soldier choice. Ram, I would say, is more valuable than Entrenchment. Now, the Entrenchment is her skill that gives her the 2 revives, which sounds good in theory for a fight like this, but, by the time that she's getting OHKO'd and reviving, you're going to be doing such little damage to Sleipnir that I think it's better just to have the Ram for utility in earlier turns so you can do more damage in the beginning when you can actually hit him for stuff than, reviving and practically doing no damage in return. So I would say that, probably leave Entrenchment on the bench. And you can bring Solidarity over Block. Now, Block definitely gives you... I'd say Block is the safer choice because it gives you the RNG chance for having less damage taken, but Solidarity is her skill that increases her defense and magic defense per units close to her by up to 15%. Now, on this fight, because your stats get 100% boosted, and she does have the conversion from Unbreakable Guardian, Solidarity can get her attack up to, pretty high levels. So that might be a consideration. I don't think either is a wrong choice, but it kind of depends on how you want to approach this fight. And then again, I'm recommending practically the same items that I would recommend for Emmerich. Guys, again, you want the amulet for the damage reduction. Yigi Wreath is probably her best choice here in terms of a weapon. You could also consider a Throne Guardian. All right, so the last tank option, but someone who I actually would prefer as a DPS, and you probably know who's coming, is Vargas. Now, Vargas, because I recommend him more as a DPS than a tank on this fight, the setup I would recommend is Attack Intimidate, Power Stab, and Battle Cry. Now, obviously, if you're going to use him as a tank, you're going to need Unbreakable Guardian, so I would probably leave out Attack Intimidate here to run the guard skill. And you can also run Armor Pierce if you're going to full DPS over Attack Intimidate. Now, the argument for Attack Intimidate is that Sleipnir has insanely high attack, like 3k attack from the beginning. So if you can lower his attack in any way, that's going to help you out significantly. So, 15% knockdown from Attack Intimidate is very, very, very good. So just something to consider here. Now, Spirit Boots are definitely a must for repositioning. And, because you can attack from and reposition afterwards to, depending on whatever turn of the phase it is. So this just gives you a lot more flexibility. And then Clothesline Pull, actually, I'm keeping the recommendations because it lets you attack from a range with Vargas, which might be better for you in order to get the 3 squares move before you attack. And it just gives you more options. So I think Clothesline Pull Spirit Boots is actually probably the best setup for him. Now, obviously, you can bring Yigi to maximize his DPS and his defense. Bloodline for obvious reasons. And then, Aeneas gives him both defense and HP. Vampire Mask is better for just straight DPS. And then if you're going to tank, I would say bring the Amulet so you can get the extra damage reduction on Vargas. So now we're going to go into our other DPS options. And the first one, as I'm sure you guys can guess, is our favorite boy, Leon. Now, Leon should run Chivalry, Smash, and Crush. Now, Legion can replace Crush if you don't have it. The difference is that Crush increases your attack 2% more if you have a better HP percentage than the boss. You're probably going to have a better HP percentage, so you can get an extra 2%, when attacking, which can be nice. And then Smash, you're running for obvious reasons, so you can help reposition Sleipnir. Chivalry is important for removing Hunted. Now, because it's a 2-turn debuff, you can use Chivalry on 1 turn and then attack and then it's gone. So that's very helpful for wasting turns in order to remove that off Leon. Smash, as I mentioned, is for moving him around. And he can run Bats for self-sustain or Royal Cavalry, depending on your needs. Obviously, Royal Cavs are lower DPS, but it gives him more tankiness. So it kind of depends on, what you need for that fight. And then in terms of equipment, I would say that Dragon Slayer Grams is best because it gives him HP, although Seal Guardian definitely does work as well. Now, in terms of armor, I'd actually argue that his best is probably the Arcane Battle Garb, only because you're getting an extra fixed damage hit when you attack from it. The armor here is negligible. Like if you run him with Aeolus, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just that I think Arcane Battle Garb and Bloodline give him potentially more of this fight, but it really doesn't matter all that much. Vampire Mask, so you can hopefully get a fence down on him when you're using the move again skills or the act again skills, sorry, and then either Slayers or Judge just for maximum DPS. Now, the next DPS option we have here is Luna. And Luna, I would recommend you bring Wind Spiral, Move Again, and Raging Thunder. Now, Move Again is very important in this fight for repositioning to make sure that you're in the right place. Wind Spiral obviously procs her magic defense conversion, which she needs to get to very high attack levels. But again, it's also very helpful for removing Hunted. So if she gets the Hunted debuff on her, she can remove it in one turn, which makes your life a lot easier. And she can run Griffins or Holy Pegasus. It kind of depends on what it depends. Obviously the Griffins have the HP condition, so if you can't maintain it, Holy Pegs are probably going to be better, but either are viable in this fight. And then in terms of equipment, we all know what the standard Luna equips are. You want to maximize her magic defense as much as possible, and then King's Crown there I'm recommending is the best choice because it gives the damage buffs to your team. So next DPS we have here is Bernhardt. Now I would recommend you bring Hegemony, Sunslash, and Rupture. Now, his talent is going to be very helpful for offsetting Sleipnir's high stats. Burn's talent is one of the best bossing talents, just because, the lower the stats a boss has, the easier it is to kill and the less damage you take from them. Undead Knights are definitely his best soldier. It's really the only soldier that has an attack increase, so you're going to want to run those Undead Knights on him if you're going to bring Burn. And he's going to be hard to use on this fight just due to positioning. A unit that can't move around and reposition after battle is not the best on this fight. Now, you can obviously slap on some Spirit Boots on him, but that's going to ruin his DPS. It's fine on Vargas because Vargas has the conversion, but Burn here obviously does not. So having a 3-move infantry unit on this fight is a little bit less advantageous. So in terms of equipment, we have the Dragon Slayer, maybe you could bring the Demon Slayer so you can get a crit proc or something. I would recommend Dragon Slayer probably though, and then Arcane Battle Garb for the same logic as Leon. Bring one of the plus HP helmets because he doesn't have move again, and then Apex Boost is probably best for mobility / increasing his attack. Obviously, attack increasing items as well work, and then Spirit Boots it gives him the most flexibility on this fight. So he does have some options here. Now, in terms of support units, by far and away the best support unit is going to be Olivier on this fight, and I would recommend that you bring Aim, Roaring Bomb, and I believe it's Excitation is that the third skill that I can't remember it off the top of my head, but he's literally a do-it-all support unit on this fight. Like there's nothing this man can't do. He has a act again skill for removing Hunted and repositioning. He has a AoE that reduces damage. He can heal, he can increase mobility, he can decrease the damage your team takes. He literally does it all. So his talent is part of how these tanks can try and maintain 100% damage reduction because his talent will give 10% damage reduction for 2 turns. He's possibly the most important unit for this fight just because he literally does it all. And again, as all act again skills, Aim is fantastic on this fight. And then in terms of equipment, it's just, your general archer stuff, a bow that increases his attack by 10%. Last Rites for tankiness. King's Crown's going to be best, but Jormungandr's Eye works well here as well, but King's Crown's definitely better. And then an attack increasing accessory. Next support I would recommend is Lanford. And I would say for Lanford, bring Javelin, Blast, and Chivalry. Now, the command aura, like always, is important for leaderboarding because it gives you plus 15 stats or plus 11 stats if he's 5-star to everyone, which is a huge buff, and also buffs Luna, again, similar to Needhog. His passive's flexible. If you have Defense Break, that works as well. You can bring Mind's Eye if you want to crit. Blast works. The passive doesn't really matter. And then Chivalry, again, for Hunted. Now, in terms of equipment, I'd say Demon Slayer is probably his best just because it works with his kit. And then Dragon Slayer for the HP, Arcane Battle Garb for Lanford, and then the helmets are just, increase HP. Vampire Mask works as well just because he does have the move again. And then Apex Boots are going to be his best option for the most mobility possible, and then just other attack accessories. And then the next unit for support is actually going to be Gerald and Layla. Now, you might say, why Gerald and Layla? Well, they actually have a very interesting kit that is tremendously beneficial for this fight. And I would say for them, bring Smash, Move Again, and Attack Command. Now, obviously, if you're going to run Lanford, Attack Command is obsolete, so don't run it. Bring something else instead, so probably the Conversion skill. I would say that you probably have to run Clothesline Pole for range heals, and you could run the Layla class as well. However, because you're bringing Smash, and he has so much more move, I would say that the Gerald class is going to be better for this fight. It just gives you more damage and more options. So in terms of equipment, you've heard the reasoning for most of these. Clothesline Pole lets them run the sorceresses for the most amount of damage possible, and it just makes more sense, I think, to run Gerald as the Gerald class and the Layla class. Their attack stat is higher than their intelligence, so I just think that's the move here. But you can definitely run Layla. And you want to run the Clothesline Pole is the ranged heals. Just having more healing on the fight is never going to be bad. So if you have a 6-star Gerald and Layla, you're in luck, and they're going to be really, really good for this fight. Then we have Hein. Now, you might be asking yourself, why is Hein a support unit? Well, because he has Teleport. So Teleport can help fling units around during the moving phase and potentially the stationary phase if you need it for whatever reason. But Teleport helps you with your positioning, especially if you can't get the unit with Hunted far enough away from Sleipnir when he's about to queue up that attack. Now, he's going to run Shrine Maidens, and this is why Hein is good for this fight, because he is extremely tanky due to the Shrine Maidens. And then, in terms of equipment, it's just the basic mage stuff that I normally recommend on all mages. So, now we'll get to the healers here, and the best healer by far for this fight is going to be Iris, because she's on faction. So I would recommend that you bring heal, and then both of her self-teleport and the not self-teleport. I can't remember what their names are off the top of my head. So she can fling herself around. Similar to Hein, she can help reposition units very well throughout the fight. You're going to want to bring the teddy bear to extend the damage buff. So obviously on her not self-teleport, she gives plus 20% damage increase and minus 20% damage taken decrease. So it's important to remember, though, that the damage taken decrease does not stack with Olivier's. They're both just a generic damage taken minus buff. So it will overwrite Gerald's and give 10 more damage taken decreased. So just important to remember that. And she can run mass heal as well. I would probably take off the not self teleport and bring mass heal instead if you want to bring it, just because you're going to want to keep her own teleport on her just in case she gets hunted. And then in terms of equipment, I would just recommend the general healer equips that I recommend, one of the 3 healer staffs, Tenyos, and the teddy bear here for obvious reasons. Now, the other healer I'm going to recommend here is actually going to be Liana. And the reason why Liana works is that she has Shrine Maidens, so she's incredibly tanky. So even though that she's off faction and will not get the 100% stat boost, she will be able to survive a very long time into the fight. Now, in terms of skills, I'd recommend that you bring Heal, Act Again, and the Sky Archer Summon. Now, Prayer's probably going to be overkill for healing. If you're going to bring Iris, that she has the passive heal from her talent. If you're going to bring Olivier, he gets a ton of healing in his kit. Liana has the passive heal from her talent as well. Prayers is probably going to be overkill, and you'll get more value out of the Sky Archer. The accessory does not matter again, and I would just recommend, just general healer equips for AC. The nice thing about the Sky Archer is that in later rounds, you can use it to basically bait Sleipnir. So that's the reason for bringing it, and none of her other abilities really are particularly great for this fight. So bring the Sky Archer so you can potentially have him kill the Sky Archer and extend your time in the dungeon. So one new thing for this video that I'm going to do, because I think that both Sleipnir and the next boss, Jormungandr, have a number of viable options, I'm going to do a units I like a lot less slide, where I discuss units that you can also bring to this fight that definitely have some use, but I just like them a lot less than the units I'm recommending here. So the first one I'd like to cover is Weiler. And Weiler is very interesting for this fight because he has defense support L, which helps increase the damage reduction you have for your team here. Now, the problem with Weiler is that his healing output is just going to be too low, and if your tank is in a really bad spot, he doesn't have just the regular heal skill to help, top off your tank, which can be very problematic in this fight. So he definitely has a number of uses on this fight, but I just think he's so much worse than the other healers that, I would potentially stay away from him, but he's definitely someone you can bring. And a unit that has a similar problem is actually Imelda. Now, instead of increasing the damage reduction on your team, she increases their damage through her talent. So she has the same problem. She doesn't have heal. And, especially in the later rounds, this is going to become more problematic. So, I think Imelda just has too many issues potentially to realistically bring her. But, she's definitely useful in this fight. The next unit I like a lot less is Leonhardt. Now, Leonhardt can work as a tank on this fight because he gets so much damage reduction via his self-teleport and other sources. But the problem with Leonhardt is that these have such long cooldowns. He doesn't actually have a real guard skill, and I just don't think that overall he's particularly a great tank, especially considering that there are 3 very good options plus Vargas to tank. So it's almost kind of like, why would you even bring Leonhardt to tank? I hear people talking about it. I can understand from a theory crafting perspective how you can potentially do it, but I just think it's kind of a stupid move, to be honest. And then the last unit I like a lot less is actually Elwyn. Now, Elwyn is basically the exact same as Burn on this fight and has the same problem. A 3-move infantry is going to struggle on this fight. If you're going to bring Elwyn or Burn, you should ideally have at least 2 ram skills. So whether smash from Leon or a literal ram from let's say Serena. You're going to have problems. Now, you could also slap on Spirit Boost onto Elwyn, but that's going to reduce his damage potential a lot. Now, Elwyn obviously can do more damage than Burn, but the thing that Burn brings to the table that Elwyn does not is that Burn has his debuff from the talent. So that's why I think Burn is more usable than Elwyn for this fight. Now, you can definitely bring Elwyn if you're in a pinch, but in my opinion, I would try to stay away. So, in terms of my team I'm going to bring, for my tank, I'm going to bring Altamüller. And then for DPS, I want to bring Leon and Luna. For support, I'm going to bring Lanford and Olivier. And then for my healer, I'm going to be Iris. So, Sleipnir is arguably the most important boss to do well on because it gives the mage enchants, and additionally it's one of the hardest bosses, if not the hardest boss, so you're going to make sure you want to prepare well for this fight. I feel that with this team of 6 I should actually be able to score pretty well, so I'm actually looking forward to Sleipnir a lot. I think it has a number of mechanics that make the fight quite fun. So that's it for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you could hit the like button and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. And as always, if you have any questions about the Sleipnir fight, if you have any discussion points or any comments in general, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again later.